Okay, so we're back for part 2 of the True Story of Fatima. If you haven't seen part 1, make sure to check out part 1 before you watch this video. So the 5th apparition, so now we're in September, it was actually hard for the children to even get to the apparition site because there were so many pilgrims who came to see the children and the apparition. And again, Our Lady told the children to continue praying the Rosary daily. And she also told the children that your sacrifices are pleasing to God, but please don't wear the rope at night. So what the children did is they found this rope that was heavy and kind of pierced their skin a little, and it hurt to wear the rope, and they would wear it during the day, and they actually wore it at night as well, and so they weren't getting good sleep because of the discomfort from the rope. And so Our Lady said, you know, these sacrifices are pleasing to God, but please don't wear the rope at night, you know, get some good sleep. And for this 5th apparition, the people that were there watching, they said that they felt a sudden cooling of air and that the sun dimmed so much that they could see the stars in the sky in broad daylight. And they saw petals falling to the ground, but they disappeared before they touched the ground. And when the children saw Our Lady, the other adults who were watching, they just saw a globe of light come down and a globe of light leave. So now the children and the whole town were so excited for October to see this miracle that was promised by Our Lady. But it was actually a terrifying time as well because many people threatened the families of these children, Lúcia, Jacinta, and Francisco. They threatened very severe penalties if a miracle didn't happen. Also during this time, another priest talked to the children individually, and he was trying to get them to contradict themselves, trying to prove that it was all a lie. So then on October 13th, 1917, this is the day that Our Lady promised a miracle so that all would believe. That morning and the night before, there was such a persistent rain, just sheets and sheets of rain. And some estimated 70,000 people came on October 13th to see this miracle. And actually a professor from Portugal, Dr. Garrett, who was there, estimated over 100,000 pilgrims. Lucia's mom was actually worried that Lúcia was going to die that day. Right before the promised time, a priest tried to shoo the children and all the people away. Okay, this is all a lie. It's not going to happen. But Our Lady appeared as Our Lady of the Rosary, and she appeared to the children, and she again asked for the children to pray the Rosary daily. And she asked for a chapel to be built right where she was standing. And again, she extended her hands and the light of God penetrated the children's hearts. And then all of the witnesses, everyone there, saw the sky clear, all the clouds dispersed, and the sun came out. And this happened quickly, you know, in an unnatural way. Normally, a big rainstorm doesn't just disappear just like that. Witnesses said the sun was pale, almost like the moon. They could look at it and gaze at the sun without any damage to their eyes. And to the left of the sun, Saint Joseph appeared holding the child Jesus, and together Jesus and Saint Joseph made the sign of the cross 3 times, blessing the world. Mother Mary appeared on the right side of the sun in blue and white as Our Lady of the Rosary. Then she appeared in purple as Our Lady of Sorrows, and then she appeared in simple brown clothing as Our Lady of Mount Carmel. So the 3 children saw all of this. They saw Saint Joseph, and some people did see Mary, but everyone saw the sun miracle. Everyone gazed at the sun with ease like you never could before. You know, you cannot look at the sun for even a second without burning your eyes. You are never to look at the sun. But they gazed at the sun with ease. They said it was pale and white as snow, almost like a pearl. And everyone saw a light display of the sun. The sun was throwing rays of light all over the place in different directions, covering the sky in different colors, covering the ground, the people, the trees, all in different colors. That same professor that I just mentioned, Dr. Garrett, was there, and he said he saw people that were all purple, and then he saw them all be yellow. All of the witnesses there also saw the sun dance, and they saw it spin, and then they saw the sun detach itself from the heavens and come crashing down to earth. And everyone thought that they were going to die. It was terrifying. They thought the sun was going to smash into the earth, and they felt the heat of the sun, and they were all drenched from this rain that they walked through to get there all morning, and they were actually dried completely from the sun. So the sun was coming crashing to the earth. Everyone was terrified, but before it came to the earth, it turned around and went back to its place in the sky. So the believers that witnessed this amazing miracle had the beautiful gift of faith. Their faith was strengthened, and non-believers, deniers who thought it was all a hoax, who went to this miracle, now believed. There was one story in the book about a man who said, "Oh, that's all a lie." And when he saw the sun, he fell to his knees and said, "My God, Our Lady." So then in the book, it explains the story of the children and their lives after these miraculous events, and talks about Francisco first. So others in the town would ask Francisco, "Do you want to be a teacher? Do you want to be a doctor?" And Francisco did not want to be anything. He said, "I just want to pray the rosary, die, and go to heaven." So this little boy, that was his only desire. And his parents confirmed that, yes, this is all he wants. He wants to pray the rosary and go to heaven. After this October miracle, Our Lady appeared 3 more times to Jacinta, and she appeared many more times to Lúcia. During this time, Jacinta was asked to pray for a man to return safely home. And this man escaped jail and was lost trying to get home. And he was losing hope and was in distress. And he knelt to pray, and Jacinta appeared to him and led him by the hand safely home. And Jacinta had no recollection of this. Isn't that wild? Then almost everyone got the flu. Jacinta, Francisco, their families, and the children knew from Mary that they were going to heaven. So Mary had told them that Jacinta and Francisco were going to heaven soon, and Lúcia would stay on earth for a long while. So when Francisco got the flu, he accepted this suffering peacefully. He said he wanted to suffer to console the hearts of Jesus and Mary. And Jacinta also accepted this suffering of the flu peacefully, and she said she wanted to suffer for poor sinners. On April 4th, 1919, Francisco was just 10 years old, almost 11. He confessed his sins, and he knew he was going to heaven soon. So he asked Jacinta and Lúcia, "Have I done any sins? Even the tiniest sin? Can you remember any sins that I've done?" Because he wanted to confess all of his sins, and he received his first communion. He tried to receive his first communion before, but he failed his catechism test. But he received his first communion right before he died at the age of 10. He died peacefully. He wasn't scared. He knew Our Lady was taking him to heaven. Jacinta's condition really worsened. She developed an abscess on her chest. Her mother was so worried about her all the time, and Jacinta would always console her mother and say, "Don't worry, I know I'm going to heaven." Jacinta was sent to a hospital, and both Jacinta and Lúcia were already hurting so much losing Francisco. They knew he was happy in heaven, but the 3 of them had such a bond, experiencing these mystical things together. So to be completely separated, Francisco's in heaven, Jacinta's in the hospital, Lúcia's at home taking care of her family members with the flu, it really hurt them to be separated. And it almost makes me think of me and my Catholic friends. I love all of the people in my life, but I do have the strongest bond with people who know, love, and serve God. We have such a deep spiritual bond because we share something eternal. Obviously, I can't imagine what these 3 children experienced together. I have never had a supernatural experience at all, much less with others, but that's the only way I could imagine it, is just the bond I have with Catholic friends, but obviously I cannot understand what these children experienced. So Our Lady actually appeared to Jacinta again and told her that she was going to go to another hospital in Lisbon and actually die alone. So that is so sad. That is, another suffering that she took on peacefully. Jacinta's parents didn't have any money, so they didn't understand how she would get to this hospital, but a doctor visited the apparition site and Jacinta said, "I'm going to heaven. You don't have to send me to any new doctors. I know I'm going to heaven. Our Lady told me." But the doctor said, to ensure that it is Our Lady's will to take you to heaven, I want to do everything possible to save you, to ensure that it's God's will. So he took her to this hospital in Lisbon. I may be pronouncing that wrong. I don't know Portuguese at all. Before her hospital room was ready, she couldn't find a place to stay, and she did not mind. It made her remember when Mary and Joseph could not find a room. There was no room at the inn. So she actually went to an orphanage that had a chapel there and had religious sisters and a mother superior. And so she was actually overjoyed to be in the same house as Jesus, because Jesus was always present there in the Blessed Sacrament in the chapel. The mother superior there said that Jacinta spoke with supernatural wisdom. She did not speak like a child. So Jacinta and the mother superior built a beautiful bond, and this is some of the wisdom that Jacinta spoke of. She said, "The sins that bring most souls to hell are the sins of the flesh. Certain fashions are going to be introduced which will offend our Lord very much. Those who serve God should not follow these fashions. The church has no fashions. Our Lord is always the same. If only people knew what eternity is, they would do everything in their power to change their lives. People lose their souls because they do not think about the death of our Lord and do not do penance. Many marriages are not good. They do not please our Lord and are not of God. Pray a great deal for governments. Pity those governments which persecute the religion of our Lord. If governments left the church in peace and gave liberty to the holy religion, they would be blessed by God. My good mother, do not give yourself to immodest clothes. Run away from riches. Love holy poverty and silence very much. Be very charitable, even with those who are unkind. Never criticize others and avoid those who do. Be very patient, for patience leads us to heaven. Mortifications and sacrifices please our Lord a great deal. Confession is a sacrament of mercy. Approach the confessional with confidence and joy. Without confession, there is no salvation." She talks about chastity and purity and how those are so pleasing to God. Don't be sinful, don't steal, don't lie, tell the truth even when it's hard. On some days, Jacinta was very saddened by the worldliness of her visitors, particularly the women dressed in fashionable clothes, especially low-cut dresses. She said, "What is it all for? If they only knew what eternity is." Such wisdom that we need to absorb, wisdom from a 9-year-old girl. And she bonded with that mother superior, and she loved being there with Jesus. But when it was time for her to go to the hospital, she was very sad to leave this mother superior and Jesus in the chapel. She suffered very much, but she did not complain. And actually, 4 days before she died, Our Lady appeared to her and took away all her pain. On February 20th, 1920, Jacinta was just 9 years old. She was almost 10. She died, but she actually did not die completely alone. She really bonded with a nurse, and a nurse stayed with her, so she did not die alone. And the undertaker was shocked by Jacinta's body because she miraculously smelled like flowers, and that just does not follow natural law for someone who was dying of the flu and had an abscess on their chest that would leak and smelled foul and needed to be cleaned regularly. But miraculously, Jacinta's body smelled like flowers, and later her body was found to be practically incorrupt. And after she died, her face was beautiful, her cheeks were rosy, and this again is miraculous because she was so ill. She was so weak from the flu. She was in terrible condition. So now Lúcia missed her cousins so much. She knew that they were happy in heaven, but of course she missed them so much, and she did not have any peace at home because there were so many visitors who just asked her questions day in and day out about Our Lady. And so the bishop arranged for her to be sent to a convent school so she could live and study in peace, and she could live anonymously. So she was instructed to not tell anyone who she was or her name. So she went by a different name when she arrived at that school. And Jesus and Mother Mary revealed the first Saturday's devotion to Lúcia. And I'm going to read what Jesus said to Lúcia, and this really brings me a lot of comfort because I've shared earlier on my channel that I'm a cradle Catholic, but I grew up with a lot of Protestants, and so I was slow to get to know Mary and to have any devotion to Mary because I didn't want to offend God. But God himself said, "Have pity on the heart of your most holy mother. It is covered with the thorns with which ungrateful men pierce it at every moment, and there is no one to remove them with an act of reparation." I talked a bit about the first Saturday's devotion, what Jesus and Mother Mary instructed us to do, and I have that video linked below. I completed this devotion last year, but now I'm doing the first Fridays, but once I finish the first Fridays, I want to switch back to the first Saturdays. I can do another video and talk about the first Saturday's devotion more in depth, but it's a beautiful devotion, and you know, most people don't work on Saturdays, so it's definitely something to consider. Jesus himself and Mother Mary requested that we do this devotion. At the end of the book, we're reminded that for God's peace and grace, everyone doesn't need to do heroic sacrifices like the Fatima children, but we all must fulfill our duties in life and observe God's law. So I know this video is really long, but I really wanted to share about Our Lady of Fatima because it increased my faith, hope, and love. So I wanted to share that with you. But definitely consider getting the book from the Fatima Center linked below. And I hope you pray the Rosary. This is so timely because I just shared on the Gracefully Catholic channel about how I struggle to pray the Rosary sometimes. So my faith has been strengthened by this book, and I am really going to commit to daily Rosary prayer again. And so I hope you pray the Rosary with me today. God bless you, and until next time, bye.